What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Kelsey's Constrictors. In today's video, we're going to talk about hook training, also called tap training. So before I get into how to actually hook train your snake, I'm going to go over some reasons why you might want to do so. If you already have a large snake, or if you've purchased a snake that you know is going to get large, or if your snake has a strong food response, those may be some reasons that you may want to start hook training. My motto is, it's better safe than sorry. I'm not really much of a risk taker, so hook training is a great way for me to make sure that my animals are safe, make sure that I'm staying safe. The main reason to hook train a snake is to knock them out of food response so that you can safely handle them, both for your sake and for the snake's. One of the biggest reasons why the safety of the snake is important when you're hook training is because if you don't hook train your snake and they end up biting you, a normal human response is to jerk your hand away. If you jerk your hand away after they've already bitten you, you can actually rip out their teeth. If you've never seen how small the teeth are of a boa or a ball python, I will go ahead and put in a picture right here in the corner so that you can see. They're incredibly small. They really don't do much damage, but the pain that comes along with it, along with the fear that comes along with being bit, that's enough for some people to jerk their hand, and because they're so tiny, it can easily rip them out. First, I want to talk about what triggers a food response for a snake. Even though snakes don't have ears, they can still sense the same things that our ears pick up as hearing, such as vibration. As you're approaching their cage, they may think that, oh, my human is coming towards my cage, maybe it's time for me to eat. Another thing that could trigger them could be the light, and the most common things that trigger a food response in a snake is going to be heat and smell. They smell with their tongues, so if you see fast tongue flicks, I also cover this in my snake body language video. If you see fast tongue flicks, that usually means that they are looking for food. Also, with ball pythons specifically, they can sense the heat through the pits in their face, so if you put your hand inside of their enclosure, all they sense is heat, so they might think that that's a live rat. So when should you start hook training? Well, there's a couple of different things. The first thing I'll say about when you should start is early as possible. As soon as you get the snake, whether it's a baby or an adult, you should start hook training the snake. The exception to that rule is when you first bring your snake home, they do need time to adjust to their environment, so make sure you give them a week or two inside their enclosure without any outside distractions or vibrations. You don't want to cause them any kind of stress. You want to help them get used to their environment a little bit before you start introducing new things. Other than that, you can start as soon as possible. You also want to start hook training when the snake is not hungry. This is to prevent the feeding response or to stop it in its tracks. So if your snake is already hungry and you're trying to introduce this new thing, this snake hook, to try and get them out of their food response, it's probably not going to work very well. So you should start hook training when the snake has already ate and had 2 to 3 days to digest their food. You want to give them 24 to 48 hours of alone time after they eat to help them digest, otherwise they can regurgitate. So if you're brand new to this, go ahead and start hook training when the snake is not hungry, especially if you're nervous already. If you're wondering how long it takes to hook train your snake, there's really no clear-cut answer. It really depends on the animal, it depends on how old they are when you start, and the frequency of how often you do it will also factor into that as well. As a general rule of thumb, the earlier you start, the quicker your results will be. So there are a few different methods of how to actually hook train a snake. You can use any snake hook. You really don't even have to use a snake hook specifically. This is just a great tool because you can use it. It's a multi-use tool, so it's a really great thing to have around, but you don't have to use this for this specific purpose. The whole goal, again, the whole goal of doing this is to get them out of food response. So you can use a paper towel roll, you can use a piece of PVC, you can use a wire coat hanger, not the sharp end. You can really use anything that is long enough to keep your hand away from them and something that doesn't smell like rats or chicks or whatever your snake eats. You just want to use something very neutral that is not something that's part of their normal environment to help knock them out of that food response. So now we'll just get right into how to actually do it. Reading your snake's body language is going to be crucial as you are hook training your snake. I have a video already on snake body language. If you want to check that out, I'll go ahead and link it above. But again, you want to look for quick head movements, fast tongue flicks, all of that means that they're very hungry, and I probably wouldn't start trying to hook train at that moment. Wait until they've had a couple of days to digest their food, and then you can start introducing it. When your snake is calm, they won't be jerking their head around. They'll have nice slow tongue flicks. They might even be sleeping. Snakes don't have eyelids, so you can't tell when they're sleeping, but you want to just look for very calm, docile behavior, no jerky movements. So when you're comfortable with your snake's temperament, go ahead and take whatever tool you're using. In this case, I'll be using a hook to demonstrate, and you want to open up their cage or enclosure, whatever you have them in, their tub, and you just want to take the hook and you want to tap their head. You can either, there's two different ways you can do it. You can either do a tapping method or a rubbing method. It really doesn't matter. Again, the whole goal is to knock them out of food response. So as long as the result is the same, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. The main snake that I use hook training on is Phoenix, because she is a boa constrictor. So she is gonna get to be 8 to 12 feet. When Phoenix is 10 feet long, I do not want to be afraid of sticking my hand in her enclosure to get her out. So hook training is a great tool for me with her specifically. I've been training her since she was very small, since I got her. So I use the rubbing method. I open up her cage. If she's jerking her head around, if she's ready to eat, I will just take the hook and I will slowly rub her head, and I will rub her body all over, on the side, on top. I'll rub the top of her head, and that will immediately knock her out, and she will just lay her head down and she'll be like, oh, not time for me to eat right now. And then I can safely get her out without using the hook at all. And again, you want to make sure that their body language is on point when you're doing this. So if you do open it up, if you've been doing this for a while, if you do open it up and they do have those jerky head movements, if you put the hook in there or whatever you're using and you start to do your normal technique and they're not responding, don't get them out. Do not stick your hand in there, because there's a great possibility you might get bit. And another tip, if you're nervous, is you can actually use the hook part of the snake hook, and when you're getting them out, if they've already exhibited that they're knocked out of food response, if you're still nervous, you can take the hook and hold it this way and kind of hook it around their head so it will keep them from turning their head towards you. Just hold their head like this. You don't have to hold it tight or anything. Just a little bit of pressure to keep their head still, and then grab the back of their body and lift them directly up and out. The most important things to remember when you're hook training your snake is you want to be repetitive. Repetition is your friend. You want to do this frequently. You don't have to do it every single day. The more frequently you do it, the better your results, the quicker your results will be. So repetition and patience are crucial. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be a 2-week thing. It may not even be a month thing. Some snakes learn quickly, some don't learn quickly. Patience will be your friend in this endeavor. So now let's talk about some do's and don'ts. Do remain calm. If you have any kind of anxiety or stressful kind of pheromones coming off, they can sense that. Animals can sense when you are stressed out or when you're scared. They can sense fear. So try to stay as calm as you possibly can, even if you're nervous, because that will help facilitate calmness within the animal as well. Consistency is also going to be your friend as you are hook training your snake. If you are hook training your snake and you do it once a week, then you do it 2 times next week, then you skip 2 weeks, it's going to be really difficult for the animal to learn that this is something that is a common thing that you're going to be doing with them. So again, you don't have to do it every single day, but I would do it at least every 2 to 3 days when you're first starting out. And now that I have Phoenix trained, I only get her out about once a week now to, actually let her exercise and stuff. And I don't have to worry at all about if she's going to respond to the snake hook or not, because I've already been training her for about 2 years. And now let's go over a couple of don'ts. Do not jerk your hand. Like I said in the beginning, one of the biggest safety concerns and safety benefits of doing this is the safety of your snake. So if you jerk your hand, then if they've already bitten you, you can rip their teeth out. Jerking your hand is also a sign that you're very fearful and nervous of doing this, which, like I said earlier, does affect the mood of the snake. So try to remain as calm as you possibly can and don't jerk your hand. And do not grab or force your snake to do something that they don't want to do. These are wild but domesticated animals. These are not like cats or dogs. You can't force them to do anything, which you really shouldn't be forcing any animal to do anything. But snakes are a little bit more particular in general than cats or dogs. They're a little bit harder to train. What makes snakes different from cats and dogs is that they don't have a drive for a reward. They don't necessarily want or not want to come out. Some snakes are more friendly than others. I have a few snakes that when I open their their tub, they want to come right out and see me. Other snakes get really defensive and they're just like, leave me alone. I don't want to come out. I don't want to see you. I just want to be left alone. So you have to know the personality of your snake as well. You want to make sure that hook training is a solely positive experience for your snake. So if you're trying to grab them or force them to do something that they don't want to do, that's going to make it a negative experience and they're not going to want to come out in the future. If you've been trying to get them out for about 5 or 10 minutes and they're just not having it, if their body is all tense, if they're still jerking their head around or have really fast tongue flicks, just close the enclosure, leave them alone. You can try again later in the day if you'd like, or you can try again the next day. And now that I have given you the educational part of the video, I will go ahead and show you how to put it into practice. Alright guys, I have migrated over into Phoenix's room. As you can see, she is in a pretty big glass enclosure here. I went ahead and got this for her because I know she's going to get pretty big, and she's been in this for about a year now. She's about 5 feet long, maybe about 5 pounds, so she's getting pretty big. She's about 2.5 years old. She'll be 3 in May. She just ate about 5 days ago, so I know already that she should be okay as far as food response, but I still want to go ahead and show you how to do it in case you are wondering and you want to see exactly how I do it. So before I do it, I'll go ahead and show you how she is laying in here because I know it's kind of hard to see, and that way you can kind of get an idea of what exactly I'm doing when I go to get her out. Alright, so her head is right here, and she is kind of sprawling right now, so she must not be too terribly cold. And as you can see, she's gotten pretty darn big, and I'm super excited for when she's full grown. So yeah, she's just relaxing right now. And like I said, she ate about 5 days ago. So I'm not worried about her being in food response, but I will still show you how I do it anyway. Okay, so as I said earlier, you want to make sure their body language is good. Like I said, she's just laying here, she's just chilling, so she might even be asleep for all I know. She hasn't really moved at all. But you want to read their body language. She's pretty relaxed, so I'm not too worried. And then since I'm going to go ahead and open it this way. I hope that y'all will be able to see this okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the snake hook, and again, when she's hungry, she does jerk her head around. She does have the fast tongue flicks when she's ready to eat. So this isn't going to be a great example for her specifically, but after I finish showing you how to do it with her, because I know she's very docile, I will show you how to do it as well with one of my more temperamental ball pythons. I don't hook train as much with my ball pythons because I don't get a lot of them out to play with them very much. I do get them out for exercise from time to time, but Phoenix is only a pet, so I try to stay very much on top of keeping the hook training good with her, especially because she's going to get so big. So I go ahead and open the enclosure. She has peeked her head up a little bit. She's not flicking her tongue, but she recognizes that I'm here. She can probably hear the vibrations of my voice. She can see the light. She probably heard me coming in. So she knows I'm here. So I'm just going to take the hook and I'm just going to tap her head here. Actually, let me turn the camera so that you can see. So I'm just going to take the hook and I'm just going to tap her head, rub her head a little bit. Like, hey, I'm here. There's her tongue. I don't know if you can see it. She's got nice, slow tongue flicks. And like I said, I've been training her for about 2 years, so she knows exactly what's going on right now. And just rub her body, rub the back, rub the side, all over, touch her head, you know, saying, hey, I'm here, it's not time for food. And once I've done that, I just go ahead and get the back of her body like this. Make sure you support the whole weight of the snake. And then I just pull her up and out. Just like that. She's a super sweet girl. I don't really ever have to worry about her striking me. She's never hissed at me. But again, you know, you never know. These snakes are wild animals. They are not like cats or dogs. So it's super important to keep yourself safe and to keep them safe as well. Hey, baby. And now that I showed you how to do that, I will go ahead and put her back and I will show you a couple of my more temperamental snakes. Thanks, girl. And yes, I'm one of those weirdos that says thank you to my snakes every time that they are nice to me, because I think that that's important to make sure that they know that I appreciate them and I appreciate their kindness and their love and respect of me, just like I love and respect them. Okay, now I'm going to show you one of my more temperamental ball pythons. Again, I don't do this every single day with my ball pythons because some of them are kind of more pets to me, some of them are very friendly, some of them aren't used to being handled as much. So They're not as familiar with this as Phoenix is. Okay, so he is not the friendliest. He does, he actually bit me last week, so you do have to be very careful if they're not normally used to this. Even if with a ball python you haven't spent a lot of time or every day or every other day training them with the hook, using the hook is still extremely helpful because it still does knock them out of food response, and especially if, like he is here, if he is a little more defensive towards you, the hook is still helpful to kind of keep their head back from you, because a lot of times when they're defensive, it's just because they're fearful. So if you tap their head, then they will normally jerk it back, and that can help you pick them up as well. So you can see he's kind of in a defensive mode here. He's looking at me like, what are you doing? It's actually probably time for him to eat too. So this is a good example. So when he's like this, I just go ahead and tap his head like this. See, he jerks back, and he is not very well hook trained, but that is enough for me to knock his head down, and then I can pick him up just like that. Even if your snake is not very well hook trained, you can still use the hook to get them out. And he is very defensive, and as you saw, still didn't have a problem getting him out, even though he is not very well hook trained. Now this guy right here, this guy's a rescue. He is extremely defensive. I've had him for a few months, and I have only gotten him out one time to hold him. So he is not used to being held. He doesn't like being held at all. So I'm going to attempt to do this with him. As you can see, hopefully you can see, he is already in fight mode. Oh, and he shed. Perfect. So I'll go ahead and tap his head. See how he jerked it back? And that's enough for me to go ahead and get him out once he realizes that it's not time to eat. Let me get this out. Clean his poop. And if he keeps his head towards me, I go ahead and keep tapping it until I feel comfortable. That's another tip I want to give you. If you don't feel comfortable getting them out, don't get them out. So his head is hiding now, so I go ahead and I'll show you the example of what I told you earlier as well. I use this hook. Oh, he's hissing. Yeah, he does not like to be held at all. So I'm not going to get him out because he's just not in the mood at all. But I'll show you. So I just hold the hook like this around his neck, and then I would grab his body like this, because he would have no way of, well, I have to turn it the other way. Whichever way your hand is going, use the hook to hold their head right there. So you just hold it right here, and that'll keep their head from jerking around at you. And then if I was going to get him out, I would just scoop my hand right here, and that would keep his head away from my hand. Alrighty, y'all, that is about all I have for today's video. I hope that was helpful to you. If I left anything out, as usual, leave it in the comments below, and that can help some other people as well. If you do it differently, you can also leave a comment. I'm all about education, so if you do it differently, if there's a better way, if you found a different way, if you have any other tips or tricks for anybody else or for myself, go ahead and leave it in the comments. Make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. Follow us on Instagram. It's Kelsey's Constrictors, and I will see y'all next time. The only exception to that or if your snake has a strong food response, they smell with their tongues if you were to stick your hand in there, or some of them are not used to being handled as much. One of the biggest safety concerns and one of the biggest safety